Hello everyone. For the International Women's Day, which is occurring this week, we're going to have a series of lessons about women. We're going to try to scrutinize what is the essence of the woman according to the wisdom of Kabbalah. What is the role of the women in the new global reality, the new global world. So Rav, this is our topic. What do you want me to do exactly here? Maybe we'll start off. What's the root of this matter? The separation between there's a man and there's a woman, and what's unique about her role? Material about women, specifically in the wisdom of Kabbalah. You know what, I would say there's nothing about the men. All the material in Kabbalah is about the women. Because we're learning how to correct the will to receive, called the woman. It is by the force, yes, called the man, the male, meaning the creator. We only have two forces in reality, the creator and the creature. The force of bestowal, which is the male, the creator, and the force of reception, the receiver, called the woman. It's more correctly to say when the two connectedness, the will to receive and the will to bestow, both then divide into a man and a woman, a male and a female. The male in us is called the force of overcoming, the screen. And thus, we divide the vessel into the male side, the overcoming forces, the masachim, the intentions, and the force of reception, which is weak, cannot bestow. It is said that its force, its strength is waned like a female. And also you could look at, let's say, in our world down here, in the material world, corporeal world, it also divides into male and female, just like in spirituality. It's a copy of root to branch. You can also say, let's say, in the vessels, you have the aviyut, which is like the male, and the vessel is which receives the light and intention to bestow. This is called giving birth to sons, meaning banim, from sons, from the word havanot, understanding. And right next to them you'll always have banot, the females. All this is in our world. We see the division of the roles in a very clear manner. Man is seemingly meant for certain things, and then female for certain things. We call the female the home, the bait. She's supposed to manage it, to take care of it, to give birth to the children, to take care of everything. The male is supposed to actually exit this house and bring in he's supposed to be like the breadwinner, bringing the salary. So here you have the will to receive, the female, the male being the masach, the screen on the will to receive, and then when they both work together, they work together to connection with the upper light, the creator, the result, meaning new partsufim, on the intentions to bestow what's called banim, sons. And this is what is called in this world when they say a man and a woman, divinity between them. We're talking about spirituality, the will to receive, the force of the screen, and then you have divinity between them. Because between the vessel and the screen, with the intention to bestow, is where that upper light dwells. In our world also, again, if we have advanced over history in our egoistical will to receive, it grows and grows and grows until we've reached this point where we are dependent upon each other for our existence. So, yes, maybe two people can hold the family up, but later on, the will to receive grows, and it reaches these new huge dimensions, and we're incapable of holding on to this, and we don't see a need for it. We see this in our world today, in our times. We no longer see such a strong need for a family. Any one of us can serve ourselves, can take care of ourselves. So why need children? Why need a family and have to take care of all this and have to do laundry and have to cook food? And a person has developed for himself such technology in his life where every person can work out his own life more or less. Beforehand, a person needed a family when he was sick. Today, you have your health insurance. Basically, there are such systems in society today where a person no longer needs to make every single calculation with his family. He is not dependent upon them as before, and thus sees less of a need for them. So really here, the one which is most corrupted in this whole picture is the male. We see the males in our days continuing to be children. They don't want to get married. They don't want to accept the family burden. They feel good as they are. They continue to keep playing with different things in their life as they grow up. The world is raising the importance of the profession, the importance of having fun, entertainment, take trips, adventures, and they enjoy this. And the male sees that he seemingly has enough to fulfill himself without this family unit and the wife. And now the female, the woman, is more successful than the male in this, that they, over the course of generations, have reached equal status more or less with the men. They can work out with the men. They're more successful in managing their life than men. You see how women continue to fill up bigger and more important positions in human society, different degrees and stages which were never before in history. And also we've developed in our life in a manner where a woman today who even wants a child, she doesn't need a man for this. She can give birth on her own. She has also the same mechanisms and opportunities to raise the child on her own. What we see here really is that very same foundation upon which we existed with throughout history has completely broken down. It's one of the signs of the end of this process that we've gone through over our thousands of years of development, where our ego has truly realized itself. It's done for. We are now in this new era where we have to use it differently. Meaning, if up until now everything advanced by the ego, what more could I do to gain benefit for myself, to succeed, to take for myself? Today we have the state where I don't have such strong desire to run forward and win and succeed and push forward. We see everything as quite unfulfilling for men. It's not so much that they're not fulfilling themselves, but because man's ego has grown even more. We see then the despair that people enter, the widespread drug use, suicides, all the phenomena we see in the world. We have all the rest of the phenomena in the world also, where we see how everyone is going through some very unique period in our development, where here we need to make some inner calculation to find ourselves. Where are we? What are we going towards? Nature has surely always pushed us forward to advance, but is it possible to somehow understand what's going on? And even more so maybe with male and female, because this is like the basis of our existence here. Clear answers? Well, the wisdom of Kabbalah does give answers, but who listens? Let's see. We're going to read a passage from Zohar and Tazriya, letter 181. Please say that you are my sister. This is a perplexing verse. Would Abraham, who feared sin and loved the Creator, say about his wife so that he would be favored? But even though Abraham feared sin, he did not rely on his merit and did not wish for the Creator to diminish his merit. Instead, he relied on his wife's merit that he would gain for her the money of the rest of the nations, since a man is rewarded with money thanks to his wife. As it is written, house and riches are the inheritance of fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Thus one who wins a prudent wife wins everything, and it is written, the heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain.
Well, we are talking about spirituality here. How Abraham, which is the quality of chesed, mercy, lacks oviyut, coarseness. So how can it develop? Therefore, immediately it writes, listen to what Sarah tells you, which means the will to receive that has to grow. Once the will to receive grows, and Abraham has no choice but to start serving that will to receive, meaning Sarah, then these two forces together, Abraham and Sarah, when they reach completion, which is what's called 100 years and so on, then they give birth to Yitzchak, Isaac. And the birth is impossible without these two forces connecting, on the condition that the man serves the woman. In spirituality, we understand that all the corrections come from the man, meaning the masach and ol chozer, screen and returning light, for the oviyut, coarseness, which is called the woman. And in our life, a corrected family is usually when there is a correct connection between the spouses, and the man provides for all the needs that the woman requires in order to sustain the house and bring up the children. That's it basically. I don't know what there's to add here. It's all nature.
Why, when we're talking about the study, by us there's a tendency, look, we see more women coming to study. What's the reason?
Women have a greater desire than men in our world, in our time, because our world is completely dissatisfactory to a woman. A woman is closer to nature than a man. A woman demands the earthly existence in terms of having a home, a family, a husband. She wants that nest, sort of. And usually men don't want any obligation. If in the past it was for lack of a better choice, because otherwise man wouldn't have where to live, how to live. They wouldn't handle all of that by themselves. Who will wash the clothes? Who will make food? Who will stay in the house? Meaning, it was obvious that you need both in order to have life. Today, you have so many accessory systems in society that you can live without getting married as a man. You can do whatever you need and have whatever you need without making any obligation. But in the women, these inclinations, these desires remained. It's also lesser than before, but this is why women feel more pain, although they have a strong power to overcome and persist in our world. Women are stronger than men because they're closer to nature, and it makes them more stable. But along with it, because of their deficiency, because of their lack meaning that they don't receive what their nature demands in our world, meaning she doesn't receive the man that provides for all her needs and so on. So she feels helpless because now she has to take on the role of the man as well. And although it is possible in our modern society, still they feel great frustrations and a certain sense of emptiness exists and some lack of confidence and security. And that all pushes them to look for an answer for the meaning of life. That's what we're seeing, that many women come to the wisdom of Kabbalah to answer that question, and it's more than men. Men have, they have their football, or they go out to travel, and they do all kinds of things, and they feel they have everything. At worst, they go to their mother's house. And the women here may feel really disappointed and empty.
Why in our world, what's developing today is that we demand the women to be like men. Women are going out to work. They are asked to make salaries. What's the course of this?
The source of this corruption is that we don't want to take our nature into consideration, and we're just trying to exploit anyone as much as we can. Okay, so women are good as secretaries, they're good as this, as that. Bring them on and we'll fill up all the seats. And the same thing with men and so on, and that's how we're treating everyone. We're not trying to approach this in a responsible and creative way and address society this way. We're not building society with the correct calculation. Look, we need men and women to bond and give birth to a certain number of children, right? And we know that at least that it'll match some threshold or more than that. Do we give them the conditions to do that? No. We demand people to succeed in this profession and that profession and this role and that role and so on. So of course that's what you get. If you always advertise that the freer the women, the more they succeed, and the more the men go party, the more they are great. If that's the kind of appreciation you get from society, so naturally you get this kind of response, this kind of behavior from them, and you can see the results. You can look at the decline in the population, in number of population in Europe, in America not yet, in Russia. People don't want children, maybe one, and somehow it grows, and most of the time not in the family but in his grandmother or something like that, because the mother already divorced her husband. How can you even think of a corrected society looking at this? And we allow these conditions in such a systematic manner that a family is not required. You don't need family and you don't need children. You can live your whole life thinking about yourself. I'm an egoist. I care about myself and that's it. Why do I need any wife and children? Not to mention a whole society or a country or something. And that's how we're destroying ourselves. In no country, maybe in just a few here and there are laws about that, but what do we have here, for instance? There's nothing. There's nothing that shows you that we're trying to help, to organize, to lead the young generation to find a match and create a family and help them give birth and so on. Look at what happens to young spouses. Who can buy an apartment today? Who can do all those things. Very harsh conditions. This shows that human society isn't even thinking about that because we don't understand how we're supposed to be built.
The opposite, yeah. Seems that there is opposite discrimination. Women are not they don't have an easier time when they're pregnant. They're paid less. Every business takes women today because they can pay them less. All this is out of corruption of the ego.
What can we do? This is something that happens from the dawn of days. It works like that, and you won't be able to fix it until we begin the general correction, meaning until we correct ourselves on the level of the souls. These flaws will still appear until you come to the correction of the world, meaning that all the world now must reach correction of the collective soul. Then you have an almost equal role to men and women, and actually I would say it's a bit greater on the part of the women. I'd say that I'm seeing the women's role as even more important and crucial than the men's.
How could it be that over the course of history, if let's say you see the women's role today is more influential in the correction, and that they naturally feel the deficit, how could it be that over the course of history women did not learn? It wasn't accepted that women would learn. How?
Because women had to be home. Until 200 years ago, let's say, women didn't used to leave home that much. And it's also written that a woman should be under the reign of her father or her husband. That's it. As if a woman without any reign is a disaster to the whole society. And this is how it was in many societies in most of the world. And then the industry and all of those different things that the industry needed required women to go out to work and so on. And what do we see? Do you see that life got better?
Not really so clear. I mean, on one hand, they do feel the deficit, we say, right? Every person needs to reach correction. So maybe it was once done because they weren't advanced, and now?
No. Now we are going through some transition phase. When we'll reach a point where we enter correction, women will have a true equality about this correction with the men. Because women provide the desire, they have to push the men, they have to force them. Like in a family, how the woman pushes the man to go out to work and bring money home. If then there's home and there's provision, then you give birth to children and you grow them up. In spirituality, if we're working on the correction of the soul together, men and women, we are giving birth to new souls, which refers to new corrections. It's called man, woman, and the divinity among them. Meaning the revelation of the Creator is precisely through all of us together. And both men and women need to give their part here. And there's no one smaller or greater here. You can't give birth without a woman. You can't grow a new soul, meaning the new spiritual partzuf, without the force of the will, the desire. It's called the force of the woman. There is nothing here that you can call greater or smaller. Wherever you see that something is smaller, you have the other thing that's greater, and so on. It's always opposite value between lights and vessels. Without the grade of Viyut, you can't work, you can't do anything. Without the Masach, you can't do anything either. What comes first? The woman. Because the desire, the man, always comes from the woman. We see how it is in our world as well. Men think that they're doing things in the world, but they are only doing what they're doing for the women. All that men are doing is in order to look great in the eyes of the women. That's how we're built.
Okay, that I can understand and identify with. But I'm asking, you described now this corrected state, but beforehand you said it's written a woman has to be under her father and then under her husband.
This is how it was in previous generations.
The question is there's a spiritual root or some societal decay?
No, it's a spiritual root. In Katnut means under her father, and in Gadlut means under her husband. It's referring to the will to receive that always has to be covered by the masach, the screen.
Regarding this deficit that we have in the woman, we have a passage here from Chidvei Rabash, the writings of Rabash. What is the matter of the blessing in the empty place in the work? It's possible that a person has more salary than the others, and maybe more important things in his environment, and yet he may not have satisfaction from this. And this is felt more by a woman, that if they lack something, even though she may have many things, more than her friends even, but if she feels that she lacks something, she says, better death than my life. And she cannot be comforted by this, that she has more things than her friends. Rather, if the deficit, the lack, touches her heart, she says that she feels more in sorrow than the whole world. And the reason is because man, in the hour that he feels a true deficit, he cannot be comforted by this matter that it is lacking for the masses as well, for the public. Because the sensation of the suffering from the lack of fulfillment and the desire, this determines that what could maybe sometimes bring a person to lose his mind, only this would be called a true deficit.
Yes, we have to learn this. If I have everything besides something that seems valuable to me now, then I got nothing. That's the correct lack. And men don't have that. Generally, we should learn from spirituality that without the women's desire, a man cannot advance. Therefore, this internal man and women part that there is in each and every one of us have to be balanced with the general women part and man part in the world. And obviously, we should also make sure that the women who come to study the wisdom of Kabbalah will get everything they need to correct our collective soul, because without them we won't advance. A woman's desire, her lack, her pressure towards the man, the demand to bring the light that reforms, that a woman cannot bring on her own, but the desire that she provides already allows the ability for us to draw the light that reforms. So, without the women part, we won't be able to advance.
We see in the world, despite that women have a more deficit, more lack, the men always seem to be on stage, the governors, the factory managers. The men seemingly manage everything. But the deficit always comes from the women.
Right.
In the study of Kabbalah, is there something in parallel?
Yes, of course. We see that this is how it is by nature. Although women study like us, more or less she doesn't have to study exactly in the same way we do, but everything that has to do with drawing the light is not her obligation, because she's not supposed to do that. Therefore, man is supposed to study and bond with the group and draw the light that reforms. A woman has to know the general picture in terms of creation and how it works and all the process. She doesn't have an obligation to study daily, consistently, And it could be done through reading our blogs or watching our TV channel. That would be enough. But the main thing for her is that she internally cares for the work of the men and helps as much as possible in order for them to draw the light that reforms. The pressure upon the men to draw the light is the part that the women have to give, and without that, the men will not be able to draw the light that reforms and bring correction.
I've seen many women, especially in the beginning of the path, who don't understand. They get upset at this attitude. They say, I want to learn, give me tests, give me Zohar, I want to study.
First of all, no one says no. We're open to anyone. But again, there's no doubt that articles, even preface, pticha, to the wisdom of Kabbalah, all that we teach in our center, in our study center, the men can somehow study through the group and study with us in the daily lesson, but for women, the study center, the learning center is really the place for them. It's a wonderful opportunity for them to learn everything, to advance with an environment and with a guide, and there's all they need there. I think that after what the education center gives, and then if a woman starts working on the material, translation and editing and so on, and doing whatever she can, she puts herself in the kli that is becoming corrected, and in that way she moves towards gaining the light that reforms.
Maybe we'll hear some questions from the internet? Wow, there's a lot of questions here. Let's see, from St. Louis, they're asking, there's a lot of questions specifically about the lack of equality. It seems to be seen in how Kabbalah presents men and women.
I don't see lack of equality. Why? Isn't there inequivalence with her being a woman and I'm a man, and she can give birth and I can't, and she can do things like manage the house and I can't, or that I'm supposed to make more what equality? It's like the American sterile equality that you're referring to. Nature didn't create us this way, and if we'll treat everyone this way, we'll ruin everything. We learned that the main law in the wisdom of Kabbalah is balance with nature. So I have to look at how nature works, not at how Obama works or how someone disseminates all kinds of messages that he feels like. You understand? Democracy is good if it is accompanied with a mind that comes from nature. If it doesn't come from nature, it'll ruin everything, and that's it. So if we go along with nature, both the man part and the women part, then we're creating the optimal conditions for both, then everyone will succeed. If we'll make everything unisex, as if there's no difference between men and women, then we're destroying nature. There is no greater difference in nature besides this differentiation between the plus and minus, men and women, and only through the correct connection between them you create life. And to say that there's no difference is canceling the basis of life. Yes.
There's many questions also on the topic of the attitude of in the spiritual work between men and women, the difference. What is the difference between them? Let's say, from Rehovot they're saying the work of the men is also to reach the correct deficit to raising man. So what's the difference?
This is the work of the men, to achieve a desire and raise man. The work of the woman is to provide the man with this desire, so that he raises man and draw for both of them the light that reforms. Just like if you look at the original family unit, the woman is supposed to send the man to go and bring provision, to earn what's needed in order to bring it home, and then everything can work at home. This is how we should understand the soul. The male part provides the light that reforms, brings it to the women part, and the women part, meaning the will to receive, can then give birth to children, meaning to advance, meaning the soul becomes a corrected soul and grows to the level of the end of correction.
This matter of the men seems like they're the ones, or the leaders standing out, the ones who study. They're like some group. The women seem like some group incapable of connecting. How do we fix this thing? How do we arrange this thing towards new students?
Men also can't bond because of their ego, and women can't also. Women are supposed to connect in order to influence the men in a powerful way. In order to do that, they should connect. Knowing why, knowing how, understanding their role and what exactly they're supposed to demand from the men. And that requires them to understand what is the light that reforms, how it works, what is it supposed to give birth to. A woman in spirituality is a stronger force than a man. Man is just the masach, the screen. A woman is the place where all the changes happen. She gives birth to the new degree. She takes care of the new degree. All those levels of ibui and ikam, mochin, conception and suckling and adulthood, they're all found in the women part of the soul. The man only brings the light, draws the light. It's like in our world. What is the role of the man in the family? That's it. The man brings the sperm, and that's it. And he provides that force only. But everything happens through the mother, through the woman. That is, all the spiritual development happens through the woman. When we learn in the Torah who gives birth to who, and then he gives birth to who, and so on, the women part gives birth to the souls. Abraham and Sarah are two parts of the soul. They give birth to their new state, and that is called Yitzchak, Isaac, that is more advanced. Now, who is it born from, Abraham or Sarah? I don't want to argue with this. They need to open their eyes and learn what needs to be learned, and then we'll understand each other. I don't want to hear all these distortions. I know one thing. If something is rooted in nature, we have to carry it out. The closer we come to the corporeal nature, and then also aim towards the spiritual nature, the more we benefit. Instead of harming ourselves, the more we create damages because our ego pushes us to do this or that, and really because it's in someone's interest in the government, or someone gets something out of yelling about creating equality, and really it destroys families and it destroys our society, then we're not coming to anything. Someone earns from this politically, but not the society.
We have another quote from this source from Rabash. See, the life with the woman which you love. Man is to be incorporated from life in the tree of life, which is Zeranpin, in this place, which is Malchut, called the woman. One without the other, Zeranpin without Malchut, does not work. And man needs to be incorporated from this measure of night and day, because life, which is the illumination of Chokhmah, do not illuminate upon the Malchut. Explanation. The woman is called Malchut Shamayim. Which you loved means that the acceptance of the upper providence, the Malchut Shamayim, needs to be as written, love thy Creator. And day is called the right line, which is Chafetz Chesed, delighting in mercy, and he is happy with his part. And night is called the aspect of the deficit. Know him, that all the work is to unite the Havaya.
That's it. So there's more and more sources that explain that woman is the main part that the whole creation revolves around.
So one of the groups are asking, how can we, as the male group, receive the deficit of the women who seem to be much more serious and much more devoted to the path?
Again?
The Chifa group is asking, how can we, as the men, receive the deficit from the women?
We need what in the group. If we are working on dissemination, that's enough for those desires, for that support of the women part to be transmitted to the man part. Women need to express it in some way. Could be in writing, could be in taking part in different committees that we have, or different activities. And also at home, the men have to feel the urge, the pressure from the women to go and bring spiritual provision. Where is that? Yes.
Many from Beersheba asks, in the group there are women and men. When I work in front of the society, the environment, am I working with the women as well? The greatness of the goal can only come from the women?
We have to draw the light that reforms to our mutual group of both men and women, and specifically think about the women. Meaning, if the women will feel that they receive forces from us that come from above, you'll see that you're getting the forces to continue as a response. The disconnection between the man part and the women part, there has to be a connection, but a correct connection. The disconnection takes away man's desire to advance, because man advance with the women's desire. It is said, thanks to the righteous women, they went out of Egypt. There was an exodus from Egypt. It says about the status of Mount Sinai that 3 million women with the children stood around the 600,000 men, meaning without the pressure that comes from the woman, the man will stay like a little boy and will not get anything.
All from Beersheba says, Rav, you say men and women are equal but different. But the sensation is that there must be an equality in attitude, but we don't have this in the world either. There is a sensation of chauvinism. Men close things off from the women.
I don't want to listen to this, because they're weighing things in their stupidity that what they see have to be equal to how they think. How they think about it. No, there is a difference. This role and that role, and everyone has to find their place. If I give the woman her part and her role by nature, and I give the man his part and his role by nature, then they're equal. Everyone receives what they're supposed to. You're not supposed to weigh things equally in your... this is 10 kilos, that's 10 kilos. This is 5 meters, that's 5 meters. Why? The woman actually needs a lot more.
A quote from Yevamot. Rabbi Elazar says, every person that does not have a woman is not a man. It is said, the male and the female were created and they were called Adam, man.
I always give the example of Rabash, how he and Rabbi Baal Sulam and all the Kabbalists, they didn't accept students who are not married, because a student that is not married is half a body. It's called. He has no obligation. He has no family. He is like a kid. He's not connected to real life by chains. One has to feel obligated, responsible, and that's a problem in our days. We need to make sure that all those conditions will nevertheless take place. We're not forcing anyone to get married, but for Rabash, that was a necessary condition before anyone starts studying. The presence of a woman is an important matter, and besides that, there is a lot of responsibility in many roles for the women. And the women's complaint that they don't get enough responsibility and role is because they don't want to take enough responsibility. They have a lot of work to do, to pressure the man, to create the necessity, to do their work, and the help and support. The concern of a woman is something that is a must.
Tomer from Mochovot says, how can the man practically draw light for the woman?
Because there's a shared desire. Where does the light go from him to the women part in him and to the general women part? Where else does it go? Where does the sperm go that later procreates the fetus? It goes into the woman. How can you divide it in a way that it doesn't exist? You can't. We're in a time where the whole of humanity now awakens towards correction. In this new era, men and women need to understand this and accept it as one. This was also something apparent in how the Rabash put together the women group. All the men students, all my friends, and all our women were meeting weekly. They had their own women gathering, and they had some women organization. This didn't exist before Rabash. He put it together, and the articles that we received from him to somehow read and implement, they were received by the women. The women got them as well. I used to give it to my wife, and then she would give it to the women, and he would also always ask what is happening with them and make sure there's a response from them. It was a very important thing. Although we learn that the thoughts and desires and aspirations all go to each other without words, between the men and the women and so on, and vice versa, but still sometimes it's required to sit together and meet and create the proper structure for connection, and after that it's not necessarily what's needed. The inner connection should be there, meaning this desire that the woman has in a pronounced manner has to be transmitted to the men, and they will want to realize it. No one here is superior or inferior. Both parts are needed in their right place in order to reach the goal. That's it. And let's conclude with this.
Final announcements. Today is Sunday, a unique live broadcast day on kab.tv. 4 p.m. is the virtual social lesson with Rav Laitman. 5:30 is the children's global lesson, and 6:45 the global yeshivat chaverim. Sunday, as every week, is the day of the World Kabbalah Convention in New Jersey. April 1st, April 3rd, we make it real, rising to the next degree of our connection. Join us in New Jersey. You can find more information and registration on kabbalah.info/we. Join us, don't miss this, guys. Cultural events, lessons with Rav Laitman, workshops, connection encompassing the world. Sign up if you haven't already done so. We make it real, guys, only together. Have a great day, everyone.
הנשמות באות רק ממקום אחד. כל הנשמות בעצם נשמה אחת. כל האנשים היום כל כך מבולבלים, מפחדים ובגדול הם מרגישים תקועים. זהו כפר גלובלי, הקשר וירטואלי. כולם צריכים להתחבר, כולם צריכים להתאחד, זה רק שינוי מנטלי, גם אם ממש לא בא לי, אם טוב לי או רע לי, אם לא נפתח את הלב, נגלה רק כאב, אז בוא תהיה ריאלי. שכח מאחור את הזמן, איש לא יכול לעצור. מספיק לחשוב על איך אפשר כל יום רק לגנוב, כי עכשיו הזמן שלנו לאהוב. זהו כפר גלובלי, הקשר וירטואלי. כולם צריכים להתחבר, כולם צריכים להתאחד, זה רק שינוי מנטלי, גם אם ממש לא בא לי, אם טוב לי או רע לי, אם לא נפתח את הלב, נגלה רק כאב, אז בוא תהיה ריאלי. זהו כבר גלובלי, הקשר וירטואלי. כולם צריכים להתחבר, כולם צריכים להתאחד, זה רק שינוי מנטלי, גם אם ממש לא בא לי,